welcome to the Wayfaring Panda. I'm Annette. Today I'm participating in the Something Old, Something New YouTube hop where we take something old from our stash and combine it with something new. So today I'm using this very old Stampin' Up! Stamp set that I purchased back in 2001 when my sister was a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And as you could tell, it's the old style where they were on wooden blocks and had the red rubber. And this one was called Bushy-Tailed Blessings because also for this hop our theme is harvest or thanks. For the wooden block stamps you obviously can't use a stamping platform, so I'm using a stamp positioner, and this one I got from Art Impressions several years ago. And I'm also using VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. So first of all, you just stamp onto this flat piece of plastic against the little corner piece that comes with it, and that way you can line it up. So this, it doesn't matter if your impression's complete, just so it helps you to line up where you're going to stamp your image. So then you can use the clear plastic to figure out where you want it, and then you put your corner piece back on, and then you remove the flat plastic, and then you can take your stamp and stamp it along the edge of the corner, so that way you can have your image stamped where you would like it. The thing I don't like about this is that, of course, if your stamp impression doesn't go as well as you want, you can't stamp it over. It's no way you're going to get it lined up completely again. This is a piece of Stampin' Up! Cardstock. I think it's a rust color. In any case, I'm using it for an inside insert into my card because my base of my card is going to be a dark brown, so you won't be able to see any stamping on that. I use my Nuvo Deluxe glue to adhere it to the inside of my card. For my new item, I'm using the Waffle Flower Postage Collage die, and I cut out an off-white piece of cardstock that's kind of a tonal color. And then I'm also going to use this Waffle Flower grip mat for the first time. It doesn't appear that it matters which side of the grip mat that you use. They both stick to the paper and the work surface. So I adhere it to my work surface and then put on my Postage Collage cutout. And then I add my stencil, which is the reason I got it, because the stencil will cover up where the perforations are so that you can leave that part white, or in this case off-white, which is what I wanted. Now sometimes when you buy actual stamps in a collage, they do come with one big image, and then of course the perforations aren't always colored. However, I didn't like how this one turned out because there's so much details in the stamps that I decided not to use it, and I'm going to stamp it again without the stencil. So now I'm just stamping without the stencil, and I liked how that turned out a lot better. Now the only thing is, because it is on a wood block, I didn't get it exactly kind of centered towards the bottom like I wanted, but I'm going to also add some watercolors, so then I think when I add the color that won't matter so much. And also I'm going to use postage cancellations. I left the other part in just to show you the concern for when you're using like the stencil with this postage collage and you're using stamps that really weren't created to go with this collage. The problems you might run into in that case, the image has so many details that too much was missing when I used the stencil. Now there's still a little bit of parts that are not showing up because of the perforation, but you get more of the details than when I use the stencil, and it doesn't look like some of the squirrel is missing. Where's the squirrel at? So those are just the things to consider when you're combining different products. I decided I wanted to use watercolor on this image. That's why I used the VersaFine Clair, because you can use watercolor with it. And on this, I'm going to go ahead and put my stencil back on because I'm going to do blue watercolor around the sides, so I still have kind of that crisp image of the perforation marks, even though I'm going to color a little bit on those where the stamped images are. Now I'm using watercolored pencils, which I have not used in a really long time. And I'm no expert, but I'm just putting this on here not to show you so much the technique, but to show you that you don't have to be an expert. You're using your products, do it for fun, and you're giving a gift to someone that they know it's handmade. There are different techniques that you can use with watercolor pencils. I was trying where I colored on the paper and then go over it with a wet brush, but I was getting too much of those pencil mark lines. And so what I found best was to dip my watercolor pencil in the water and then go over it with a brush. And I'm just showing the one section of the blue, otherwise you'll be here watching me do this all day long. I finished going around the image with the blue, and then I also used green on the bottom because that was grass, and let it dry a little bit before I removed the stencil. And I do apologize, it went out of focus a little bit here because I'm zoomed in so much. Fortunately, it did come back in focus, and I continue using my pencils, and I started at the top. I thought that would be better just so I wouldn't be reaching over parts that I already painted so I don't smear my paint. And I found out as I wet the pencils, sometimes I didn't even need the brush because some of these areas are pretty small. And then I would have enough paint without using the brush. Of course, I sped this up a lot because otherwise we'd be watching me do this for quite a long time. I just keep trying to figure out what colors to use because I do have 24 of them. So there's only like 2 colors of brown, and a lot of this stuff could be different shades of brown. So I ended up using a lot of other yellows, and then I made the tree gray instead of brown because I didn't want my squirrels blending into the tree. I did have trouble, especially with the bird, because I had trouble seeing some of the colors or the lines on there. And I think I painted one section that was supposed to be a leaf red instead of green, so I went back and changed that. And I do know that I painted the leaves all green just because I didn't want brown and I didn't have too many shades of yellow. I know generally they fall when they're yellow, but right now we've been going through a drought, so actually we did have leaves that were just falling, either went straight to brown and didn't turn color, or they fell as they even when they were green. So my bird didn't turn out quite as nice as I wanted, and also the squirrels, the black part wasn't quite as nice, but practice makes perfect, so maybe if I get my watercolors out more, I'll get better at it. I also wanted to put this in here because a lot of times we watch people who are experts at something and then we feel overwhelmed by it, or that we can't do it because we're not as good. So I want you to be able to see, okay, I'm not coming up with the perfect picture, but I'm doing it, I'm having fun, and I created an image. Whether or not it's perfect, obviously it's not, but I did create one. And so I want you to feel that if you're watching someone maybe like me, hey, I could do that myself, or I could do even better, which you probably can. As I mentioned earlier, this is the Something Old, Something New card making hop, and I have a Facebook page online called the Card Making YouTubers that you are free to join if you would like. And that's where you can sign up to do these hops. So obviously you just have to be able to use card products, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a card. You can make gift tags or bookmarks or other things that you can make with your stamps. Just an idea of how to use our products. The main goal is to use our products that we have in the stash, not necessarily going out and buying a whole bunch of new products. There's a playlist for everyone that is participating, and also the playlist includes videos from the previous month. So we do this once a month on the first Saturday of the month, and we just change the theme each month. So this month's theme is Thanks or Harvest, or you can do a combination of the two. I'll put a link to the Facebook group as well as the playlist in the description below, and there'll also be a link at the end of the video for the playlist so you can hop along and get some more ideas for using your stash. I'll also put all the products that I'm using in the description below. Some of these will be affiliate links. They don't cost you anything extra to use, but I do get a small commission from any sales that the links generate, and that helps support my channel. Now, of course, a lot of these products are older or they're Stampin' Up! Products, which probably are discontinued also. So those you won't be able to buy anywhere. But if you don't have these watercolor pencils, there are different brands of those out there. Also, you can use your distress ink, regular tins of watercolor. There's also watercolor markers out there that you could use, and watercolor crayons. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can watercolor your images. And if you don't want to watercolor, you could color them with markers or also with just regular colored pencils. After I let my watercolor dry, I got out my Waffle Flower Postage Collage stamps, and this is their cancellation stamps. I just had the one set. There's all different sets for different holidays and birthdays and things like that, but I had the basic set, so I'm just laying out the stamps to decide which ones I want to use and where I'm going to stamp them. Then I used my stamp blocks as well as my VersaFine Clair ink to stamp the images on my Postage Collage. Then I used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue my Postage Collage onto a piece of rust-colored cardstock that I cut out with a Lawn Fawn rectangle stitch die. To add some bling, I decided to splatter on some liquid gold from Picket, and this is their paper splatter watercolor. And I'm just mixing in some water with it so that it will dilute enough to splatter on, and I'm using a fan brush. On my final step, I used my Nuvo Deluxe glue to glue my panel to the front of the card. And I cut all the panels just a little bit smaller than the others, so that way I have a layered effect. And I don't usually use this many layers, but I thought I really liked these different colors together. It has a really good fall vibe, and that gives more color to the card. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like. And if you're not already a subscriber, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.